So remember that they're changing my voice. Keep in mind that they already seem to have edited this picture of this couple in this commercial that I saw. But as I'm sure you've all seen these commercials where they try to choose people who are like models. And the point of this video isn't to, insult them or to be hypercritical of them or anything like that. It's to highlight certain ideas. Now, just like with Barack Obama, it was like, a mulatto person seems to be like a certain type of mulatto person, or certain types of mulatto people seem to be like the most normal people. Why? Because they don't kind of identify entirely with one race. So you have somebody who's black and white or something, right? And he's not accepted as a token minority or as a ghetto person or what have you. You see that he seems to be like more normal, especially if he's dressed pretty nicely, right? In nice new clothes or something, what have you. That doesn't mean that he's more sought after than other types of people. As you can see in this picture, they've chosen to kind of reinforce that people who have the same skin color should magically, supposedly date each other. So it's almost like she's like his sister or something, but there's some differences there, right? And this is key here, right? We see that, where the person is not ideal has to do with kind of his conformity and a lack of moral might. I talk about this a lot, right? The opposite, the word sin, S-I-N, backwards is N-I-S, which is similar to N-I-C-E, nice. If you're nice, like this couple seems to be, a great example of people who seem nice, but you're not righteous, then you're in rebellion against God. And you can imagine it can be awkward. I feel some type of way when I say it, but I know that it's the right thing and I say it anyway. This is important here. Most of females who are like the main females who shouldn't have shunned me, the main females who are good candidates to date me, they seem nice, right? They seem like they're the closest thing to a female who deserves to have a shot at me or something like this. And they didn't because they weren't righteous. They didn't try because they put conformity and being nice before being righteous and just and wise and disciplined enough to obey God through me. And so you see how these martial art principles factor in. That person, I'm sure most females would consider him a good-looking guy. She's a good-looking female, right? They're probably married. That's probably their family, what have you. Okay? And where they're lacking, right? This is a key distinction, right? We see in Malachi, the last book of the Bible, you'll see the distinction between the righteous and those who aren't righteous. Has to do with the martial art principles, the Royal African Falcon martial art principles. Because again, it's not, Hindu martial arts or Native American or Buddhist or what have you, right? It's very specific. It's not Somalian. It's not this, that, and the other thing. It's a very specific type of African martial artist, right? For example, Tyson isn't Carlton, right? He isn't Will Smith. Okay, he isn't Mayweather. He's a very specific type of person. So we talk about the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. It's this kind of, it's like the genetic lotto in being the ideal man of all time, and that's me, right? And then before that, there's predecessors, but there's going to be nobody after me. Okay, so as we see this guy, this gentleman, right? Very friendly, this type of person that you want to come across, right? If you're nervous about, getting a job or something, he's the guy interviewing you, you're like, okay, cool, I can deal with this. You know what I'm saying? You get pulled over by a police officer, you wanted to be like that or something, right? I go through the list, right? But it is insane and sick to pretend that his characteristics are equal or greater than mine. Why? Because when we talk about ideal, right, it's one thing to be decent. It's one thing to be good. It's one thing to be great. It's another thing to be the greatest. We have to make that distinction between greatest, great, good, decent, and less than that. We have to make that distinction. And if we don't, we get the kind of planet that we have today. There's no point in uniting for the wrong thing. There's no point in dividing because you refuse to unite for the right thing. There's only a smart point in uniting for what is precisely right. Okay? So and using this gentleman, again, who seems like a very nice guy. I'd love to discuss these things with him if he wants to discuss it with me. I have no hard feelings, other than where people are in rebellion. I have nothing against this person other than him not obeying God through me, and so on and so forth. Okay? But you have to understand that if a female, and again, I don't have a crush on his wife or something. Hey, it is what it is. I don't think anyone should reproduce. In fact, I know no one should reproduce no matter what. But that example has to be made, because when you're a model, you're presenting yourself as a model citizen. You're presenting yourself as, wow, they have it together, and don't you want what they have, and right? And so that person as a model, the M can be seen as magic, and the idol you can change it to idol, a magic idol, right? The witchcraft, the game. The word game is made scrambled. Image is I made. So he's presenting an image, a model, a magic idol. Any questions about that wordplay, put in the comments. If you act like, I don't make sense, you're being disingenuous. It's pretty straightforward. Watch it twice. You should understand it. Rewind it back for a couple of minutes or so. Listen to it again. You should see what I mean. Okay? So the fact, one thing that is saying to me, and I'll end with this because there's a lot of things I could say about this, but I'm going to end by saying this. One thing it says to me is that the government and them, they're like teasing the righteous man. The good guys get thrown under the bus. Why? Because government, meaning mind, is in mentality and mental, right? So they're governing the minds of people, and they're saying, hey, while we do this, we're going to attack the mind state of the righteous man, because if someone's righteous, they don't follow the crowd, right? Christ on a cross, John the Baptist, Stephen the martyr. If they're righteous, they're a conscientious, they have a consciousness, and they object. And not necessarily a conscientious objector in war, but they object to what's going on. Martin Luther King, right? Killed. Malcolm X, killed. They say, hey, that's wrong. And the government doesn't want the righteous man to emerge. So they show you a pretty boy. And the word pretty, again, no offense to this gentleman, the word pretty is like the word petty and has that E in common. The E for effeminate, emasculate, evil. E-vi-L. They're vying for ideal in a way that's L. And L can be anything from crazy as hell, looking like Freddy Krueger, to looking like a nice gentleman, we'll say not necessarily this person on the screen, who is a model and an example, okay, who is in rebellion against God. Because if you are not in the spirit of moral precision in the divine order, then you're thrown off. And if you're thrown off to the point where you're cheating the righteous, then you're not right in the head. It's like being on fire and not noticing it. When I point it out, just because someone says, ouch, doesn't mean I'm not doing them a favor when I point it out. Everyone right now who's not in the divine order, with all due respect, no offense to anybody, has their souls on fire. Wickedness burns like a fire. And again, the word S-I-N is N-I-S spelled backwards. Nice, when you use sounds, Phoenicians, phonetics, right? Sounds. Like hooks on phonics, right? Phonetics, sounds. N-I-S, okay, is N-I-C-E, the same sound, nice. So the word sin is like the word nice scrambled into it, right, with the S instead of the C-E. And it also, sin is a play on words for sign. So when you see the person is nice and conformist, they're not standing for what's right and having that endurance, that determination, that perseverance. They're not standing firm. Matthew 10:22, you'll be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. What happens if you're standing firm and you're persecuted all the time? Are you going to come off like a pretty boy who's nice and sweet and charming and wouldn't stand firm for the life of him? No, you're not going to.